Have a seat. I tell you what, I'm so excited because we are adding another piece to our place to call home puzzle. All right. Okay. Each piece represents $50,000 that we've brought. It represents sacrifice. It represents love, commitment, and so we are getting closer and closer to our goal. But we cannot stop now. We've got to continue pressing forward. And so if you're a part, and what am I talking about? I'm talking about our 11 and a half acres in Buda for our future Buda campus that we really, can't happen soon enough, right? But then also our parking lot in San Marcos that we're going to be installing. And really this is not just for ourselves, but it's for those who are still to come. And so if you are part of this, thank you. Continue to bring sacrificially and generously through a place to call home. And then also, if you're not yet a part of it, it's not too late. You can jump in. We want everybody to be a part of this victory. And I would encourage you to begin to give toward a place to call home. All right, we're excited about that. I want to tell you, back when I was in high school, I was in a band, and mainly they let me be the lead singer because I knew the words to the song. Not because I could sing the best, but just I knew the words, and that's been the story of my life. But one night we played at a church, and I remember very vividly seeing this girl with a blonde hair and a blue jean jacket, and she was so beautiful. And we did the eye lock. We locked eyes, and then that week, a mutual friend of ours came to me and showed me her picture and said, she wants you to call her. And so I did, and I found out that she loved Jesus, and I found out that she could sing just incredibly. And so we started dating, and yes, I'm talking about Pam, my beautiful wife, that we have been married now, or been together now, for 38 years from the time we met, and it has been great. It's been incredible, and it hasn't been easy. It's been challenging, and if it weren't for Jesus, we would not be standing here today. Our culture says if it's not working, get rid of it. But God says if it's worth having, then it's worth growing. It's worth investing in. It's worth protecting. And every relationship starts with attraction. You got to have that spark of attraction. But attraction is not enough to keep a marriage over time. It doesn't hold a marriage together. So we're starting our new series today called Rooted Romance. And we know that things that grow fast without roots don't last. Like, for example, this is a beautiful tree or plant or something. And, I've never been able to grow one that looks quite this good. This thing is like picture perfect, lush. It's Instagram ready. How many of you know of some relationships like that? We see them on social media. They look so good on the outside. Green leaves, perfect growth from across the room. But you get up closer and you start to inspect it, and you realize this thing is artificial. This thing is fake. It's not real. It's not real. And so what happens when the storms come? What happens when real life hits, when insecurity hits? It blows over. It falls down. And so most of us would say, if we were given the choice between a real relationship and a fake one, we would say, give me the real. and the raw. I need something that maybe it's not perfect on the outside, but it has deep roots that last. Singles, don't date the fake plant that has no roots, okay? Married people, you got to keep watering what you have. You got to keep watering it with wisdom and integrity, because it may look strong on the surface, but you got to look beneath the surface at the roots. And attraction brings you together, but it does not last where the roots are shallow. And everywhere you look at relationships today, you've got shallow roots. And our culture has lots of advice about how to do relationships and how to do marriage, but our culture is wrong. It's wrong. 99% of the time. Our culture says the most romantic relationship is just an accident. It just happens by chance. You just go and you bump into each other at the club, and then you go home and you get busy. And they call that love. They call that love. But what is the result of that? Today, we see shattered dreams, broken hearts, devastated emotions, the loss of innocence, and we see an epidemic of loneliness across our culture today. You know, I say many times, you can be single and lonely, but you can also be married and lonely. And so today we're going to find that there's a more lasting, there's a more satisfying way to do marriage. And we're going to be rooted in this series that we're starting today in the Old Testament book of the Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon celebrates God's covenant love. You see desire and intimacy and devotion that is grounded in commitment and in security and in safety in marriage. And the book of Song of Solomon is very poetic. And so as we get into it, we're going to discover what is being said as this couple who has this holy, satisfying, intimate relationship. They look back at what attracted them to one another in the first place. And so we're going to be learning that today. What should you be looking for in a spouse if you're not yet married? Their relationship is passionate, but they don't rush the process. They don't take shortcuts to get to the good stuff. They have desire with guardrails. They have passion, but they practice patience. Okay? And so when we talk about marriage and relationships, a lot of people get nervous about it for different reasons. But some people are saying, what does this have to do with me? Well, if you're single, this is going to help you figure out who it is that you should be dating. Because what I've discovered over the years, and I've done many, many weddings, and what I've discovered is that every couple where I've married them, I've done their wedding, they've always dated before they get married. It's funny the way that works, at least in our culture. They've always dated before they get married. And so chances are that you're going to marry somebody that you've dated, okay? So you got to be careful who it is that you're dating, because you may end up married to that person. And if you're married, this is going to deepen your roots in your relationship, bring more satisfaction, more security. And if you're a Christian, you're going to see Jesus as the ultimate bridegroom. And if you're not a Christian yet, then you may see Jesus like you've never seen him before. And if you don't think you need this, take some notes, because you will need it at some point. Today, we're looking at the starting point of a relationship. How does it get started? And what is it that attracts you to one another in the first place? You can follow along in your connection points on your Connection Church app. And let's look at this first area that attracted this couple together. And the first area is this: attraction that lasts is rooted in character, not just chemistry. Here's what she says in Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 2. She says, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. I love it when Pam tells me this. Back then, you couldn't just go down to the convenience store and choose from thousands of different types of drinks. You basically had two choices. You had water and you had wine. And most everybody would drink water. Water is necessary for survival, but wine was available only to a few people and only at special occasions. And so she's saying, you're satisfying, you're meeting my needs, but you're bringing something more. And she says in verse 3, pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Now, also back then, there wasn't any indoor plumbing or running water. And so baths didn't happen regularly. So instead, what they would do is they would take this special purified oil and they would rub it all over their body. And that oil was very precious. And she says, that's how special his name was. That his name was more than just what people call you, but your name is actually, it's actually your reputation, okay? It's what people think about you. And that is based on your character. What is your character? Your character is really who you are when nobody is looking. It takes a lifetime to build a reputation, and it can take only a moment to destroy your reputation. And for her, it was more than just the physical attraction. It was that people in the community knew of his good character and his good reputation that has saturated the community. It's this pleasing smell. Ecclesiastes 10:1 gives us a different picture, and it's kind of gross, but it says this: as dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink, so a little foolishness spoils great wisdom and honor. Okay? So you might smell really great, your cologne might smell really great, but you mix in a few dead flies into the ointment, and now nobody wants to be around you. And dead flies aren't usually the big obvious sins that we think of. Usually they're those little repeated patterns that we make excuses for, like the dishonesty that we call just exaggerating, just stretching the truth, the flirting that we say is harmless, the secrecy that we justify as privacy, or the anger that we blame on our stress, or the sarcasm that quietly eats away at the relationship, the workaholism that slowly replaces working on your marriage, and the spiritual neglect that we keep putting off for later. I'll get around to that later. Listen, you don't usually lose that character all at once. It takes little compromise after little compromise over time. And dead flies are dangerous because they don't just sit there. They will just sit there quietly until pretty soon something that smelled so sweet now starts to stink up your life. And so attraction has to start with character, with wisdom, with integrity, and with consistency, because when the heat is on and the storms come, that's when the cracks start to bubble up and eventually they break. So I'm not just talking to the guys, I'm talking to men and women. In Proverbs 12:4 says, a wife of noble character is her husband's crown, but a disgraceful wife is like decay in his bones. And so many times couples get off track because what we're looking for in somebody is their potential instead of their proven character. What we hope that they will be instead of who they are. And it's great to believe the best in people. The Connection Church, we know God can change lives, and he's changing lives every day, every week. But if you're single, hear me very closely. Don't date someone hoping that they will grow roots later on, because those roots take time, okay? That's why you shouldn't just swipe right, but you should look for the good soil, because you've got to figure out, what am I planting myself in? What am I planting my life in? Okay, what I mean is, don't date a project. And we don't do missionary dating. Oh, I can win so many people to Jesus if I just go out on a date with them. No, that's not how that works. Okay? I'll change him. I'll change her. Listen, it doesn't work that way. If you're married, the same character that attracted you to your spouse is what keeps trust intact today. When character erodes, attraction also starts to fade away. And this is why Proverbs 24 gives us this clear picture of lasting love. This is our power verse for this week. Let's say it out loud together, okay, with a lot of volume. Help me out here. By wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. All right, there is an order here, okay? The order is that, a house is not built by good feelings or by chemistry, but it's built by wisdom. It's established by understanding, and then the house is filled with beauty. In other words, attraction might get things started, but it is wisdom that holds it together. Feelings give that initial spark, but they're not strong enough to carry the relationship, because feelings come and go, but roots keep you strong and stable. There are many couples, and most couples, they want the beautiful treasure. They want the joy, the intimacy, the connection, but they don't want to do the hard work that it takes to build it. And Proverbs says, you don't decorate the home first. First, you build the foundation, and then you strengthen the structure, and then you can enjoy what is filling the house. And so what you are building today, starting now, is what eventually becomes the beauty in the relationship that you will enjoy in the future. So let me speak to married couples. If your marriage feels empty and unstable right now, you need to hear it's not too late, because wisdom can begin building starting today, and understanding can start to establish something new and something lasting, and God can still fill up what feels unfinished and what feels empty with something rare and beautiful. But the second thing is this: delayed gratification grows desire that lasts. This couple, they want each other, okay? But they wait. Don't think it was easy, but they're setting godly boundaries that they don't cross. And I remember those days when Pam and I were dating, okay? And we were passionate, and, we were fired up, and I took a lot of cold showers, but we were waiting, and we didn't take the shortcuts, and it wasn't an easy battle, and it was a battle, but what happened is the desire that we felt for each other didn't die. In fact, it grew more strongly until the day we said, I do. And it wasn't just then physical, but it was something better. It was something holy. It was something protected and something God blessed. Our culture says, if it feels good, do it. But God says, if it's worth protecting, it's worth waiting. Okay, so 1 Thessalonians 4:3 says, it is God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn to control your own body in a way that is holy and honorable, not in passionate lust like the pagans who do not know God. As a follower of Jesus, we should be striving to be sexually pure. Married or single, you still need sexual purity, holiness in your life. This is the most compromised area. We think we can get away with it because we think, oh, God is going to forgive us. And yes, he will. He will forgive you. But there are also a lot of other things that you shouldn't do that God will forgive you for, like, murder, for example. God will forgive, but we shouldn't be doing that. There are consequences for our sinful choices, including sex outside of the context of a committed marriage relationship between one man and one woman. And that's God's plan. And one reason God doesn't want you to have sex before you get married is because sex makes you stupid. Okay? Sex makes you stupid. Once you get involved physically, okay, it clouds your judgment. It's not just physical, it's spiritual and it's emotional. And I was a youth pastor for 12 years, and I've been in full-time ministry for 36 years now. And I've known so many people over the years who were dating, and they knew they were dating the wrong person. And they said, well, I just can't break it off because we've already gone too far physically. They were already having sex. And that's one reason to wait, that you will never regret waiting. See, sex is like a fire, and context matters. You take a fire, especially, on these cold days that we're having, you put it in your fireplace and it brings warmth into your house. It sets the mood and the atmosphere. And it's even practical. You can roast marshmallows over it, okay? But you take that same fire out of its proper context and you put it in the middle of your living room, it's going to burn your house down, right? So the right context for sex is in a committed marriage relationship as God defines it. That protects your heart and that protects the other person's heart, okay? And it protects your physical body and the other person's physical body. In verse 7, she asks him where he will be so she won't be wandering among other men and risks being misunderstood or compromised. She says in verse 7, tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? She's guarding her reputation by asking why she should be like everybody else. If you want to be like everyone else, then you will get exactly what everyone else gets. But you don't want what everyone else gets. You want something better, something more lasting. She's saying, I'm not like all those other loose women that are throwing themselves at your friends. And if you want me, then we've got some higher standards, okay? And you have to make those commitments ahead of time. Those are your commitments. It's not a commitment necessarily that you make together. It's a commitment you have to make before you ever start dating, and you definitely need to set those standards before you're alone together. And whoever has the more strict boundaries in the couple gets to set those boundaries, okay? What are those commitments? Well, one is I won't compromise my relationship with God to keep you. If you're dating, you've got to say this. You've got to say, God comes first, and I'm not going to put my relationship with God on the back burner for you. Now, once you're married, it's too late for that, so you've got to do it up front. You want to date someone who will help you grow closer to God and not pull you farther away from God. And then the second boundary is this: I won't compromise God's standards. Did you know it's actually possible to not have sex before you get married? I can confirm that. And you can say, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. God has a higher standard, and God's standard doesn't change. The question is, do I love myself more, or do I love God more? Do I love you, who I'm dating, enough to not be selfish and try to just get whatever I can from you? Sex before marriage isn't loving. It's saying, I can't control myself. And once you set that precedent in place before you're married, then it erodes trust in the marriage, because now she's thinking, well, he couldn't control himself before. What makes me think that he can control himself with other women, outside of our marriage? Or it can go the other way as well. But if that means that we've got to set some godly boundaries in place with our devices, where we're going to go, who we're going to go there with, at work. Boundaries are a commitment to honor God, to honor yourself, and honor the other person, to protect everyone involved, okay? And then third, encouragement strengthens. Oh, I didn't do this one. I didn't do I won't play house, did I? Okay, let's talk about that. I'm talking about living together. You'd think that since most couples today move in together before they get married, that probably that means that you have a better chance of staying together if you move in together first. That's not true. In 2023, there was a study of around 1,600 couples that showed that you were 11% more likely to get a divorce if you live together before you're married. So not only are you getting your relationship out of order, but you're also setting yourself up and your relationship up to be more likely not to work out, okay? Now let's move on to this next one. Encouragement strengthens attraction. In chapter 1, verse 5, she says this. She says, "Dark am I, yet lovely, daughters of Jerusalem. Dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, because I'm darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect." So she's opening up about where she feels insecure about her image, about her appearance, and her feeling that she doesn't measure up. And she's playing that comparison game of comparing herself with other women. Listen, you always lose when you play the comparison game. But the reason her skin is darker is that she's had to work outside, and it's like she's working class. Her brothers have been putting her down. And then notice this, that she says she calls them her mother's sons, which makes me wonder, where was dad? Maybe dad hadn't been speaking, affirmation and encouragement over her. And so, dads, you have an important role with your daughters to build them up and let them know how beautiful she is. But she brings it to him, and men, this is huge. Women, they need reassurance. They need encouragement. And when your eyes wander to other women, you are reinforcing insecurity. Women are surrounded by voices through social media, through advertising, that is telling them always that they're not enough. And so husbands, we're called to be the loudest and most consistent counter voice to that, to speak truth and life into our wives. Look at verse 8. He says, "If you do not know, most beautiful of women, follow the tracks of the sheep and graze your young goats by the tents of the shepherds. I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. Your cheeks are beautiful with earrings, your neck with strings of jewels. Okay? He's not telling her that she has a horse face. Okay? Back then, Pharaoh's horses were considered to be like gods, like godlike. He's saying, you are God's greatest gift to me. And he's calling her beautiful, and he's raising her value and speaking identity into her until she is confident. Okay? How do you do that? Well, so often we think good things, but we don't say them. We think it, but then we think, oh, she already knows. He already knows. She knows I think she's beautiful. So we just kind of keep it to ourselves, or we think I'll say it another time. Don't do that. Listen, if you think it and it's good, say it. Now, on the other hand, if you think it and it's not good, just zip your lip, okay? But even better than saying it to one another privately, better thing to do is to say it publicly in front of her friends and in front of your friends, okay? Speak it out and say it. And I'll say one other thing, and that is that if you don't like what you're seeing in your spouse, then ask yourself, what are you saying to your spouse, okay? Ladies, if you're telling him he's a lazy bum, then guess what you're going to get? He's going to be a lazy bum, okay? In a growing marriage, you've got two people who know how to lift each other up and build each other up and encourage each other. You might say, well, that was hard because my parents didn't do that and we didn't do that in my house. Well, you can learn how to do it. You can learn it and you can begin to speak truth. You can do that with little texts through the week and speaking life and complimenting each other. It's awesome. Of all the terrible things that you can use your phone for, you can use it for something really good by just texting throughout the week. And they will live up to your words, okay? If you hope to be married one day, then I want to challenge you today to start praying for your future spouse. You may not know who it is, but God knows. God knows who it is. And whatever you do, don't settle for less than God's best. God sees you. He's got a good plan for you. You don't have to take it into your own hands. You can trust God that he has a good plan for your future. If you're married, then I want you to know as we continue through this series, we're going to talk more about how to strengthen the roots in our relationship, and God's going to do something beautiful. Song of Solomon ultimately points us to Jesus. We are like that insecure bride, and Jesus is the faithful groom, the faithful bridegroom. We bring him our flaws, our imperfections, our shame, our comparisons, and he responds to us with love and with sacrifice and with grace. Romans 5:8 says, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He didn't wait until we got our act together, until we had it all figured out, till we cleaned up the mess in our life. Instead, he gave his life so that we could be forgiven, we could have purpose, and we could have new life. That's what he wants to bring into you today. He wants to bring new life. And some of you are searching for security in another person when you need to be finding real security. The only place you can find it is in Jesus. So let's begin there as we pray together. Say, God, we thank you. I thank you so much for the marriages that are represented in this room. God, I pray you're holding us together in you. And God, we pray that you would continue to grow us as we move throughout this series, God, and we do the work of building a strong home and a strong marriage. And I pray over singles right now, God, that you are just being enough in their life, just enough that they find themselves in you first before they ever look for someone else. And for Some in this room, you would say, I need Jesus in my life. I don't want to live another day apart from him. Would you just begin a conversation with him where you say something like this, Dear Jesus, I need you, and I don't want to live another day apart from you. I'm sorry for my sin. I'm turning from my old life, and I ask that you would give me new life today. Thank you for dying for me and for raising again. I give you my life. Ask that you would fill me with your Spirit, and that you would change me from the inside out. Make me a part of your forever family. Thank you for the work that you've started in my life today. In Jesus' name, amen.